The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour.
ChatGPT did become the world's most downloaded non-gaming app.
Literally the job of everyone in government to address the media and the public.
What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on Zandy Silva as the deputy PLP leader?
A community that can't feed itself is a community that's doomed.
What you may not know, though, is that Bermuda, we have a connection with Epstein, too.
Things that people are doing right, the youth are doing right, that is not being advertised enough.
When you see your access to U.S. dollars disappear, that's when you have a problem.
You've got a town in the UK with a similar sized population. This place absolutely outshines it.
It's Thursday, the 18th day of May, June. The 18th day of June, 2026. Yeah, it is June. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. This is the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House Lindos, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. How's everyone feeling? It's Thursday, Friday Junior, as some of you like to call it. We are here in the his house, about to get it going. It's been a short week, so you all should be energized and ready for, I'm saying ready, enjoying the short work week and ready for a nice relaxing weekend after all that partying you did last weekend, right? But hopefully everyone's having a great week. Hopefully you all are doing well and feeling healthy and feeling good. Well, greetings everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. We have a good one today for you today, the silent barrier to justice. Yes, we're welcoming acting detective Superintendent Jason Smith on from the Bermuda Police Service. We're going to be discussing how victim witness cooperation with police and the impact it has on investigations. Yeah, we kind of discussed this last week. This is a very interesting conversation. It's about the role that we all play. A role that we all play in protecting Bermuda. So hopefully you all will engage. The daily play is this is the longest it's taken. You haven't gotten this week's clue right yet. So it's going to be more keys to the pass in partnership with Curb. So hopefully you got your thinking caps on so we can get the answer today. And audience, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right. I think you all may want to tell everybody you know. The conversation's about to start this morning because everyone has an opinion on what we're discussing this morning. Everyone, and rightfully so. And rightfully so. Here's your question of the morning. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of AI legislation to protect Bermudians? So lately, there's been a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence and how people are using it to create flyers, advertisements, graphics, videos, and all sorts of content. Chances are you've seen some of it yourself. Some of it is quite impressive. Some of it is entertaining. And some of it has left people scratching their heads, wondering who approved it before it was posted. What's interesting is that this isn't limited to event promoters anymore. We're seeing businesses use AI-generated content. We're seeing organizations use it. We're seeing political figures use it. In many ways, AI has become the newest tool in the toolbox, and like most tools, people are trying to figure out how best to use it. The problem is that some of these AI generated flyers and graphics have contained inaccurate information. Sometimes it's minor, sometimes it's obvious. But what happens when it isn't obvious? What happens when AI generates information that people assume is true because it looks professional? That's where things can become problematic. See, we live in a time where misinformation spreads quickly. You throw in artificial intelligence to the mix, and it becomes even more difficult for people to know what's real, what's edited, and what's completely fabricated. Then there's the other side of the conversation, and that's jobs, employment. There are graphic designers, photographers, videographers, writers, marketers, and other creative professionals who are understandably concerned about what AI means for their future. If a business can create a flyer in 5 minutes using artificial intelligence instead of paying a local designer, what does that mean for the person whose livelihood depends on that work? Now, some people would argue that technology has always disrupted industries. The internet changed industries. Social media changed industries. Smartphones changed industries. AI may simply be the next evolution. Others would argue that this is different because it's happening much faster and affecting industries that many people never expected technology to replace. Which brings us to the role of government. Should government simply allow the market to adapt on its own? Or should there be some level of legislation and protection put in place? Should AI generated content be required to be labeled as such? Should there be penalties when AI is used to spread false information? Should there be protections for creative professionals whose work is being replicated or imitated without permission? These are questions that countries around the world are wrestling with right now, and Bermuda won't be able to avoid them forever. The reality is that AI isn't going away. The question is how we choose to manage it. Do we embrace it with minimal restrictions? Do we regulate it heavily? Or do we try to find a balance that encourages innovation while protecting people from harm? Here's your question for the morning. You see it. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of legislation, AI legislation, to protect Bermudian jobs? And we'll give you the poll when we come back. But give it some thought. This is a conversation that impacts all of us. Stick with us.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
All right, folks, you see the question of the morning. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of AI legislation to protect Bermudians? And here's your poll question for the morning. Do you think there should be an AI law to protect people in Bermuda? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Now, where's this conversation coming from? So there were a lot of parties and events in Bermuda over the last week celebrating Bermuda Carnival. And one of the biggest complaints you saw throughout Bermuda social media were the AI generated flyers, right? There were some flyers celebrating Bermuda heroes, and you saw inaccurate information on some of these flyers. You saw pictures of people who it was not them. You saw information put on some of these things, and it shouldn't have been attributed to that person. You know, the reality is that AI is already here. Businesses are using it. Organizations are using it. Politicians are using it. Event promoters are using it. It's no longer something coming in the future. It's already part of daily life. But there's an accuracy problem. They have contained flyers and incorrect dates or times, locations, images. The images thing. What happens when the errors involve health, finance, or public safety? Like, Why wait until something happens? Why are we not creating policy and legislation? Now, let me be clear, because I did try to search last night to see if there were any countries that had specific AI laws in place. And what I was able to find was that there's the EU AI Act, which regulates high-risk AI systems, including AI used in employment, hiring, promotions, and worker management. Employers must meet transparency, safety, and anti-discrimination requirements. China apparently has implemented regulations requiring transparency and oversight for recommendation algorithms and generative AI systems with a strong focus on accountability and social stability. South Korea they're one of the first countries to adopt comprehensive AI legislation, including governance and risk management requirements for AI systems. Canada has proposed AI legislation, AIDA, focused on high impact AI systems, including protections against harmful and discriminatory outcomes. Brazil has proposed AI legislation that includes human rights, transparency, and accountability requirements. And Singapore uses a governance framework emphasizing transparency, fairness, and human oversight AI systems. Now, as far as the United States, the country itself does not currently have comprehensive national AI law, but some states have adopted worker protections, for instance. So Colorado, first state with a broad AI law aimed at preventing discrimination in employment and other high impact areas. Illinois has requires notice when employers are using AI in hiring or employment decisions and prohibits discriminatory use. California clarified that existing anti-discrimination laws apply to AI and automated employment decisions, and New York City has regulations on automated employment decision tools used in hiring. Additional AI oversight measures are being proposed. Now, that's as far as hiring practices and discrimination. But no countries have laws that prohibit employers from replacing workers with AI or automation. And I couldn't find any that had policies or legislation that protected people against false AI, videos or flyers or the like. But again, from a Bermuda context audience, you may have seen some things that were inaccurate that have been shared about Bermuda heroes, some things in flyers and events that just didn't look Bermuda, right? And you have a lot of people who feel like it's taken away opportunities from some of Bermuda's creatives. So again, the question of the morning, this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of AI legislation to protect Bermudians? And answer the poll. Do you think there should be an AI law to protect people in Bermuda? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Let's go to the audience and see what you all have to say this morning. We have Suzanne Ingham says, AI will take people's jobs away. I want nothing to do with it. If I can help it, there should be protection against fake AI. Okay. We've got Dr. Anthony Richardson says, the government needs to, especially at this early stage, regulate AI use in order to protect jobs and intellectual property rights for creatives. And I appreciate you all, Dr. Anthony Richardson, as a lawyer. I'd love to get your perspective on like small businesses, like small vendors. Like we have so many small businesses and vendors that come on this program in particular, like how AI is a threat to them and why they should be pushing for this kind of policy and legislation. So any feedback for them or advice? We've got 9/11 Island Girl said, I'd support a law which requires information deemed to be factual having a copyright number. That way we could trace who it belongs to. But then Bermuda would need to enhance defamation laws too. Look, I don't like overregulation. I believe in, somewhat the market working itself out. But not when it comes to the lack of protection for the people. I've seen some things where I'm just like, no, this is not good. This is not good. 9/11 Island Girl says it would be very difficult, especially if someone in another country with no AI laws produces it and sends it to someone in Bermuda to use and share. We've got Dr. Anthony Richardson says we need to keep in mind that legislation or rules will only be applicable within Bermuda, not AI coming in from outside of Bermuda, the latter being the biggest and most difficult to overcome. For sure. For sure. But there are laws though, right? So for instance, most flyers and things are shared on the internet. Now, there are these laws where, what's it called? Geoprotection, right? You can get it done overseas, but it has to be geo-protected where it's not shared within Bermuda. And if it's shared via your organization in Bermuda, then you have to face the consequences of the law in Bermuda. Would that be what you're referring to, Dr. Anthony Richardson? Again, question of the morning, audience. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of AI legislation to protect Bermudians? And please answer the poll. The poll question is, do you think there should be an AI law to protect people in Bermuda? 1 for yes, 2 for no. And just if you're just tuning in, we're discussing basically, we all know AI is already here. Businesses are using it. Organizations are using, politicians are using it, event promoters. It is a part of our daily life. However, there's been some accuracy issues lately. Some of you saw a flyer with recognizing Bermuda heroes, and it was the wrong pictures on the poster next to people's names and different accomplishments. Then people are concerned that misinformation, AI and misinformation, that combination can be very dangerous, right? They believe AI makes it easier than ever to create believable content. How do we know what's real? Should AI generated content be labeled? Like that's something, should it have to be labeled? The jobs question, graphic designers, writers, photographers, videographers, marketing professionals, creatives. Are there industries at risk? And is there something that government can do to protect Bermudian creatives? Or will AI simply become another tool professionals use? But should the government get involved to protect creatives, or do creatives need to be more creative in responding to the threat of artificial intelligence? Should government regulate AI? Should Bermuda wait and see what larger countries do first? Is legislation needed now before the problem gets worse? We need to find a balance, right? Protecting jobs while encouraging innovation. Preventing misinformation. Supporting local creators. And we want to avoid overregulation. We do, folks. We do want to avoid overregulation. So again, what are your thoughts? This is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. What are your thoughts on government passing some form of AI legislation to protect Bermudians? And also the poll is, do you think there should be an AI law to protect people in Bermuda? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Let's go back to the audience. We've got Suzanne Ingham says, we need all the protection we can get. I just don't trust it at all. Fair enough. We've got Sherilyn Pringle 1500 says, good morning to the H family. Yes, there does need to be some laws. However, I suspect government is a heavy user of AI itself. Well, see, she said it. I said organizations. I was trying to be kind. But I did say politicians, right? I did say politicians. But here's the thing. I don't think asking for some form of policy or legislation for AI is telling people they can't use it. I think we all use it. I would rather not use it, but sometimes if you want to correct some audio or video, if you want to, the correct term for an email, you may use it, right? But overuse, it's like they say about healthy things, right? All things are good in moderation, they say. Well, not all, but some things are good in moderation. But when you abuse things, they're not good for you. And that's how AI should be looked at. When you abuse it, it's not good, right? It's not. We've got Charles H. Jefferson II. He says, as with any law, the law is one thing, enforcement is another. Who will monitor the law and what will the penalties be? Oh, there you go, Charles. What's the point of a law if we're not going to enforce it, right? We've got Dr. Anthony Richardson said, could have the requirement that only Geo Bermuda number productions can be used within Bermuda. Okay. He goes on to say, legislation is needed now. Get ahead of the problem before it becomes the Bermuda Wild West. Bermuda Live 7862 says creatives are using AI themselves. They are. And I just said this, right? I just said there will be times when they'll use AI, whether it's to help with audio, maybe help with video, with writing. Yes, they're using it. But again, regulating it or creating legislation or policies where they have to state that AI has been used, or not even just state, but the information has to be accurate. I mean, I don't think there's a creative around who doesn't use some form of AI. I mean, it's helpful. And that's why I say AI we shouldn't be looking at it as something that's here to replace us. It should be looked at as something that can enhance the work that we're doing, you know? Well, let's go back to the audience. A lot of comments. We've got Sean Smith says, we've been living with AI for about 70 years, so please be a little bit more specific about what we are seeking to protect ourselves from. And we've spoken about that before. You know, most of us have used Microsoft Word, right? Well, spell check is a form of AI, is it not? But I think, Sean, to be specific, we were being specific this morning. We focused on creatives, graphic designers, and stuff like that. You know, many feel that they are being replaced. You saw some graphic designers in Bermuda over the weekend, very loud with their responses to some of the flyers they saw for events, feeling that you know, the mediocrity is what you get when you don't hire a graphic designer. I believe markets should determine stuff, right? I'm not a business advisor or whatnot, but what I would say to creators is find a way to utilize AI to do the job better than those who are using it. That's probably what I would say. Manuela says the legislation is overdue. That would also need to govern information which is already out there. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking at more. That's my concern. That's the greater concern for me is the information that's being shared, right? We want to make sure it's accurate. We've got Renee Sharlin says, it's not like government never knew this was coming. As technology progresses, so should the regulations and laws be implemented. They need to be proactive, not reactive. Quantum comp, 5G advanced, newer. And I think that's why Dr. Anthony Richardson said earlier, Renee, that they need to get ahead. Like they need to pass legislation now. I don't know if that will fall under the Honorable Minister Diallo Rabane as the Minister for Cabinet Office, but I would hope that conversations have been happening. I would honestly hope that these conversations would have been happening already. Dr. Anthony Richardson says, try to use the legislation to deter any negative behavior and not punish / criminalize behavior. Absolutely. We don't want to criminalize people. We've got Suzanne Ingham says, yes, spell check is a form of AI and it does a lousy job at correcting words. Like yesterday, Jamel was Jam Egg. Serious issues in correcting words. Yeah, it's like when they, people put Jamel and it changes it to Jamal. We're not having that. That's I get you. All right, audience. This was your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Well, 100% of you, so based on the poll, believe that there should be an AI law to protect people in Bermuda. That's how you feel, huh? Okay. Michael Daniels says there needs to be some way of tagging AI products so that we know the origin of the material. Okay, fair. I think this is fair. Folks, you get why I say I want you to share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I think these conversations impact everyone. Honestly, they really impact everyone. And my hope is that you do carry these conversations with beyond this show. Because look, at the end of the day, we're in summer mode, carnival, carny game, cup match. Bermuda's probably one of the best places in the world to enjoy summer events. But don't sleep on life outside of what you're doing for fun. Don't sleep on legislation and policies that will shape how you're able to enjoy life in Bermuda summer after summer. I think it's important for us to keep up to date and try to stay ahead of the curve in an evolving world, in a place in which we don't know what will exist next year this time. So I encourage people, yes, have fun, enjoy life, but stay alert, stay aware. Don't get caught slipping, as they say. This was your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Let's show some love to them, and then we will give you today's days of the year.
The daily discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Titan Express delivers safe, professional, and reliable transportation and tours across the island. From island tours to cultural experiences, they set the standard. And Secure is your go-to for property management, waste management, and residential and commercial services. Visit securebda.com. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is their commitment to you.
Alrighty, Charles H. Jeffers II, he said, I think it's at the very least, there should be an ethical standard where if AI is used, there should be some sort of credit given to the AI tool. And Sean Smith says, creators need to become better at prompt engineering and adapt to the changing times. Indeed. Well, they also need to, make organizations who are using AI to do their flyers or videos or whatnot, make them believe that they need them more than AI, that they can help them more than AI. Yeah. All right, folks. Days of the year. Oh, it's International Picnic Day. It's International Picnic Day. So here's the question for you all. Where is the best place you think to have a picnic in Bermuda? Where do you believe is the best place in Bermuda to enjoy a picnic? The best place. Come on, give us your best, audience. Where do you think is the best place to have a picnic in Bermuda? The best place that you would say, you know what? I'm going to take my family, or I'm going to go by myself under a tree, pop a bottle of, champagne, non-alcoholic for me, and enjoy some crackers and cheese or a sandwich. Where are some of the best places in Bermuda to have a picnic? We've got Hadaleen Stevenson says, Botanical Gardens. That was top of mind for me. Botanical Gardens. I was thinking that. Where else? Where else, audience? We've got Cooper's Island, says 911 Island Girl. Cooper's Island. Where else? Where else? We've got Fort Hamilton, says Sean Smith. Fort Hamilton. We've got Clearwater Beach, says Kathy Sumner. WKD Lama says Botanical Gardens as well. And we've got Dr. Anthony Richardson says Arboretum. All right, where else, audience? Best places in Bermuda to have a picnic. When I was a Cub Scout, Fort Scar was a place that we went, and also Admiralty House. We went there as well. So Fort Scar and Admiralty House stand out. Where else? Where's some of the best places to have a picnic in Bermuda, audience? We've got Renee Sherlin says, if I tell you, you might steal our spot, but we do Whale Bay Park every year. I had a family reunion up there one time. Family reunion. Yeah, that was cool. We've got Kathy Sumner says John Smith's Bay. Okay. All right. We've got Charles H. Jefferson II. He says the old Botanical Gardens. Today, BG isn't what it used to be. Okay. We've got Shelley Bay, Dr. Anthony Richardson says, and Suzanne Ingham says, my kitchen. My going out in that heat. No, thank you. All righty. All right, folks, let's take a quick break. But hey, there's another very important conversation coming up with Superintendent Jason Smith from Bermuda Police Service. We're going to be discussing the challenges that the police are facing in trying to prevent and solve crime in Bermuda. So please make sure you share the conversation with your friends, family, colleagues. We'll be back in about 3:44 to speak with Superintendent Jason Smith.
Guess what? Bermuda's most popular game is back. That's right, Shoe Buy is back in stores. But wait, there's more. The brand new Shoe Buy Summer Edition is here too. Bring the laughs, the vibes, the friendly chaos to your barbecues and summer get-togethers with Bermuda's favorite game. Don't miss your chance to get yours. Visit BermudaTrivia.com and follow Bermuda Trivia on social media to learn more.
One lucky bucks in the summer edition has a golden ticket with the chance to win a grand prize courtesy of One Communications.
Hi there, welcome to Medical House. We're located at number 6 Bakery Lane. I can't wait to show you all of the great stuff that we carry. Come on inside, let's see. Long days, long shifts, you no longer have to endure comfortable underwear. Designed by nurses, we now offer premium undergarments by Swoop that are unique, fun, comfortable, and functional. The only underwear you'll ever want to wear. Who says high-quality functional products can't be stylish and comfortable at the same time?
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast, so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It. Freshness at your doorstep. Delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
What lasts isn't what you buy, but what it becomes. With the HSBC MasterCard credit card, every spend quietly adds to a story shaped by intention and offers what matters most. Support that meets you where you are. Protection that preserves what you choose. Confidence for the unexpected. Peace of mind wherever your story leads. Start your next chapter. Use your card today. HSBC is licensed to conduct banking investment business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
I know you want to come get some. Playing around. Playing around.
Ever taken medication and thought, why is this hitting me so hard? Or why isn't this doing anything at all? Here's something you may not know. Your body processes medication the same way it needs to process food, using enzymes. And these enzymes metabolize medication so it can be converted into its useful form or removed from your body. Pharmacogenetics looks at how your DNA influences the way your body metabolizes or breaks down medications. It helps explain why a drug that works well for one person causes side effects in another and barely works at all for someone else. That means the same pill at the same dose can feel very different from one person to the next. It's not about blame, it's not about doing something wrong, it's simply biology. And once you know what works best for you, medication decisions stop being guesswork and start becoming personalized.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Thank you all for rocking with us. If you haven't already and you are streaming with us, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I'm Jamel Hartman. This is the Daily Hour, brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda Medical House, Lindo's People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 107.5 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Folks, we have a very special guest coming up. You let us know where you love to picnic. I want to just read these ones real quickly. We've got WKD Lamas at Bars Bay for a long lunch break. I think they're having this event called the Big Picnic at Bars Bay as well. But folks, let's give a warm TDH welcome. Very special guest today. It's not the first time, but we've got Superintendent Jason Smith. Put your hands together and make sure you share this conversation, because this is a very serious community conversation we're having this morning. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. I'm wonderful. I got to ask you before we jump in, though, because it's International Picnic Day, and
Yeah.
we need to know, like, what's your picnic spot?
I like going on my boat. I go on my boat, small boat, not a big boat, very small, and just find a spot, put some music on, have some good food and good friends around, and just enjoy the day.
All right. So being on the water, see, folks, total opposite of me. Me and the water are not. We don't have a really great relationship. So yeah, outside of a shower or a bath, I don't. Yeah, but props to you, sir. Props to you. Let's jump into the convo because we've got a lot to cover this one. Definitely appreciate yourself and your colleagues for continuing to trust this platform to have these conversations. But
yes.
One of the biggest challenges often cited by police is the lack of victim and witness cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to us about how significant this issue is in Bermuda and what impact it actually has on police investigations.
So, I mean, at the center of any police investigation, witness. Well, first of all, let's start with the victim because they're the reason that the police often are attended. So, victim cooperation is very, very important. We have been on almost like a road show all of last week. We were fortunate that the director of public prosecutions, Ms. Cindy Clark, was with us as we, spoke to wider audiences, media, and so forth. And one of the key things that she mentioned is without the victim saying that I am the complainant, I want to make a complaint, cooperating with us to give us the details of what happened, how it transpired. That's kind of the first step, and then the second step is to support the investigation. Because remember, whenever you approach an investigation, there's several things that you're looking at. So we often hear people say, "Look, please go do your job. That's why we pay you." Well, part of the job is that we collect evidence. So we don't decide who gets prosecuted. That's a matter for the director of public prosecutions. But the collection of evidence, that's our part. And so when we go out and we're saying to witnesses, talk to us. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you do? That's because that's all part of the evidence collection.
Mm.
And so that's important. So if you don't have that, you're going to have challenges.
And I think, when people hear conversations about people not cooperating, they usually think about bystanders, right? They're not thinking about victims or witnesses. They're thinking about the people who may have seen something, especially the way the police ask for stuff. You would think from the outside that most victims would want to come forward to help the person who did whatever to them, but many people don't do it for whatever reason. What does it really mean for the chances of solving crimes and securing successful prosecutions without victim cooperation in particular? Like, is there, I remember people saying, well, the police can't prosecute this because the victim is not cooperating. So a prosecution can't take place without victim cooperation.
So if you look at fatalities, unfortunately, where people have been murdered, obviously the victim is deceased. So you would not necessarily need that victim's cooperation. If you look at cases where people have been seriously injured and so forth, I mean, the prosecution department, and I wouldn't want to speak necessarily for them, but it's all part of the evidence collection. We would present what we have to the prosecution, and then they would decide. So in the absence of, let's just say, a victim coming forward and providing a statement in the traditional sense, investigation still must continue, and the police must continue collecting evidence, and we can do that. And so you look at things like the CCTV, which is independent. You look at other forms. There may be documentation evidence, documentary evidence. There might be telecommunication evidence. So we still go through the process of collecting, but the DPP will ultimately decide on whether or not somebody is charged. So even in those cases where the victim doesn't necessarily come forward, we still present the evidence that we've collected to the DPP, and then we get advice from them.
All right. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Superintendent Smith, you can send your questions and comments through. What are some of the most common reasons people are reluctant to cooperate with police? Is it fear, mistrust, intimidation, or something else?
So I think it's probably all three of those. But what I think the difficulty is that people are more, I think, afraid of the process. So, as I said to you about the collection of evidence, so when there's a crime that's been committed, the police will attend a scene, they'll go, they'll speak to witnesses, right, bystanders, victims themselves, to try to get information on what has happened, what has transpired, and then it's people when they talk about the process, they will have to go to court. They will have to actually document what they saw, and that might be in the form of either a written witness statement, or it might be with video, audio video interviews, right? But that is all part of the process. And so I think that a lot of times the confusion that people have is just really not understanding this whole process of what it means to be a witness, and what it means after you provide you police with a statement, what are the next steps. And so this is why it's important for us today, in this discussion, and as we've been doing last week, is sort of provide context to people on what that process, will look like. The intimidation part and fear part, then yes, I believe that is real. When we live in a society as small as we do, there's people that always feel, well, look, if I tell on somebody, what might happen to me? And so you hear a lot of that in the community where a crime has been committed. People talk about, well, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say that, because somebody might come after me, and so forth. But I think, you were talking earlier about AI, and how, people can put, it's sometimes misinformation. And I think the public needs to understand as well that in a lot of these cases, I'm not saying in all, but a lot of these cases, that a lot of times, because remember, the criminal's job is to not be detected, not to get caught. And so what they'll do is they'll often intimidate, just like a bully in school would. So we do have that. But from a BPS perspective, there really is, and just in my experience, there's very, very few cases where, people have directly been injured. I mean, obviously threats and intimidation, and you know how it is too, right? Something goes on WhatsApp, it goes around. By time it goes around, there's about 300 or 400 people added their comments, and so the story has gone from where somebody just might have said something out of the way that someone might have felt a bit uncomfortable, and then it's turned into, oh, this one's going to be threatened and directly harmed. So I think we've got to be very, very careful about that. The mistrust part, I mean, that's also another part, where, again, small community, and people may think, if I share this information with the police, is it going to get out? How is it going to get out? So what I can tell you is that, from when we investigate some of these serious offenses, I mean, remember, at the forefront of our minds, particularly investigators, you're thinking about making sure that you protect your witness. And that's a big part of what we do here. And so people say often, well, the police, can I trust them? Or I've heard about this. Remember too, we also have a professional standards department in the police. So where there's an officer who you think is, doing something that they shouldn't be doing, there's ways of reporting that. But I can say to the community overall is that when we, get witnesses, we interview witnesses, we speak with witnesses, we're very, very cautious and cognizant of the impact that that has. But as you said at the beginning, if you don't come and talk to us, then we can advise you on these other things. And when it comes to progressing investigation, it's extremely difficult to progress without the cooperation of witnesses.
I want to go back to the fair part. For those who may be afraid of retaliation or becoming involved in a case, I've heard the police ask for people who may have dash cam or ring footage, right? And people are like, oh no, I wouldn't give them my ring footage, because then they know what house it came from, stuff like that. Speak to the protections and support systems that are available to people to help them feel safe coming forward.
So each case is case by case. So depending upon the circumstances. So the director, when she was on last week, she she gave some examples, right? And one of the examples is that in terms of protection for witnesses, it can be extreme as relocation of that individual from Bermuda to another place. That could be the extreme. There are also in-house there are things that we can do and to protect that person's identity. The director also talked about last week that given evidence in court, because part of the process that I talked about earlier is that you would have to go to court, you would have to give evidence, right? That's only fair. And so there could be times where the director and her team, there's some legal provisions that might allow for a person who may not have to necessarily give evidence directly in court. But these are all things that are case by case that are assessed. But if we do not have the cooperation, if the witness or the person doesn't come forward at the beginning, then we just can't have these sort of conversations. And this is what is directly impacting on our investigations. And I mean, just to give you some figures, right? So if you look at since January 1st of 2022, there have been 19 fatal shootings. There have been 28 firearm injuries, and then in total, we're looking at 30 homicides. So when you look at those numbers, and you look at those outstanding cases, a lot of those cases, the reason and that they had not been solved is that we just don't get the witness cooperation, because that's a part that just connects, it links.
And let's speak to that. How important is community cooperation to public safety? And what would you say to those who want safer neighborhoods but are hesitant to provide information?
So if you want a safer community, if you want a safer neighborhood, if we want a safer country, then we have to stand up to those who are causing the disruption. And in order to do that, listen and look at police statistics. So what we see, and from our analysts that would look at these things, every quarter, is that what we see is that oftentimes, there's fluctuations. There's fluctuations in crime, peak periods, right? If you look at, let's take the offenses like burglary, those numbers will fluctuate depending upon who might not necessarily, who might be in jail. When you look at some of the the violence with the shootings and that sort of gang culture, then a lot of times those numbers also fluctuate. So it shows you, and the reason that those numbers will fluctuate is because that witnesses have come forward, they provided information, the police have done an investigation, the person who was causing that disruption, they have been placed before the courts, and then the courts take their measures and whatever sentences that they mete out. But then you see the fluctuations. So in order to protect neighborhoods, communities, and in order for us to be free in walking about, I mean, we just finished the Carnival weekend. There was a lot of events. Thousands of people attended a lot of events. There was strong police presence there. But we got cooperation and support from the community, because the police were there. The police were giving instructions, all in the for safety, and then the public listened and the public cooperated with the police. So if you take a major event like we had this past weekend, and if you look at country and community, if we got that level of support as it relates to serious crimes that are being committed, where the community is coming forward, we will have safety. And I don't care what police force in the world you look at, that is a fact everywhere in the world. Where the public work with the police, then you have cooperation and you can restore peace and safety to the communities.
And it's been proven in Bermuda. I mean, again, I always say on this show, last year, Bermuda Day, where there's folks were riding around in dark clothing, and the community alerted the police, and the police.
Exactly.
So it's not like you're just speaking hot air. It's proven to help in Bermuda. And but I want to focus on like family. Let's use Bermuda Day, something like that, or Cop Match or Carnival. It's not just anyone. You have families. You have community leaders, right?
Yes.
The wider public, speak to the role that they play in helping build a culture, like an entire culture where victims and witnesses feel supported in seeking justice.
So, what I tell you what I mean. So, in my experience, and I've been involved in probably every murder investigation in the country since 1997, and I can tell you that oftentimes what you see is in a case where a witness comes forward, and then they begin to share, because obviously they have their circle of friends and people that might have also been present. When they come forward, it encourages other people to come forward, and then you start having this like effect, right? So one witness, one person impacts other witnesses, and they feel, well, if they did it, then I can do it. And I think that when the community rallies behind, because let's be honest, when a serious crime is committed, almost a lot of people within the community, either who were present or know someone who was present, starts receiving WhatsApp messages. Text messaging starts going around. People who are at these scenes are video recording what has happened, and that's going around, right? So that's all part of information, and that information can actually. So remember, information intelligence that can actually lead to evidence, and that's where it's important. But it takes the whole community to say, if you saw something, then you got to come forward and tell the police. I mean, we've had cases, we've had witnesses who have gone home. Young people who've been out seen a crime. They've gone home and they've told their parents, and their parents have sat them down and went through it, and then encouraged them to come forward, and they came forward, and as a result of that, you was able to advance an investigation. And I think we just need to understand, right, that our job as police officers, we don't decide who gets charged. We just here to collect the evidence and present that evidence, right? So if we have the community support, and that's the community leaders, that's the church community, all the sporting clubs, right? We've got young people that are playing football, involved in sporting clubs, coaches. If everybody did their part and came forward, we can really start to turn things around. And then you look at these fatal shootings and firearm injuries and the homicides that are outstanding. We can solve them, because remember too, there are people's families that are grieving because they've lost that loved one. And then the other thing, Jamal, that we often forget about is what I call the silent victim. And that silent victim is that person who's witnessed that particular crime, and it's traumatic because they've had to see in cases where someone's died in front of them. Somebody could be seriously injured or mutilated, and then they go home, and oftentimes those people, those silent victims, they have nightmares. They can't sleep at night, and that has an impact on them too. So this, when violence, and especially the serious crimes that we have seen committed over the last couple of years, it just not only impacts those that were directly around, but also the wider community.
Indeed. Thank you for that. We're going to go to the audience. Got some questions from the audience. We've got an audience. If you have any comments or questions, you can send them through. Charles H. Jefferson II, he's asking, has BPS begun exploring using AI as a tool to investigate crimes? If so, has it helped in any meaningful ways? If not, do you see this as something that could be a valuable tool?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I, that's probably going to be something for the commissioner's office. I know that we have a commissioner who's very, very forward thinking, and so I just don't know from my perspective if we've used much of AI in investigations, but again, that's the way that the world is moving, and it has some usefulness. So, but that's perhaps a question the commissioner's office would be better addressed to answer in terms of where he's taking the organization forward.
Alrighty. We've got 911 Island Girl says, how helpful or harmful are bystanders to police executing their job on the spot?
Well, bystanders, those who are witnessing, I mean, they can be very helpful to the police. Once the police engage them in conversation, because let's talk about the process, right? So the process would be the police attend the scene, crime, and there are people there. Part of it might be scene security. So you want to make sure that you protect the integrity of evidence that might be left at the scene, so that when our forensic team comes, there's no impediments to them accessing that evidence, analyzing and so forth. So, the police will give instructions, but then they also have a conversation with you about what you saw. And at the scene, those bystanders, they actually, are very, very critical. When I did a homicide course in Canada at the Canadian Police College some years ago, one of the things that you were taught was when a scene, crime has happened, see the first responders, you don't want them to leave the scene because they would have been the ones to engage with the bystanders. And they would be able to get that critical information that when you come as, what we call the senior investigating officer, the investigative team, then, you want to speak to those first responders to find out, look, who are the witnesses? Let's get their details. Let's have a conversation with them to find out what they had, because that eyewitness account in the immediate aftermath of a crime, you might be able to get suspect descriptions, that type of thing that we can, broadcast, so we can begin what we call fast track actions to gather and collect as much evidence as we can. So bystanders, they do have a critical role there. And when the police say, look, back off or don't go here, that's just because it's about scene preservation. But then the second part is, we want to also hear from you, because what you saw, that eyewitness account, will really be a great asset.
But what about the other side of it, bystander, sorry, where they kind of can get in the way or interrupt the police doing their job, the impact that has. They don't want to be helpful, they want to be disruptive.
That's right. And so that's why I said, about that scene preservation. The officer's initial response is going to be to, provide security so that that scene is protected. And we're bystanders. And we do see that quite often at scenes where you go there, and remember, it's also an emotive time. People are very emotional because of what they've seen. It could be their friend, it could be their boyfriend, it could be their family member. So yes, there's going to be people that will be irate, but this is where crime scene, preservation control helps. And yes, if they are trying to get into the scene, then that's going to present some challenges, right? Because then you're looking at cross contamination and that type of thing. So that's why crime scene management is very, very important, and to let the public know that when you see police attending scenes, and the police might be giving you instructions, and it might be a bit forceful at first because maybe you're not paying attention or you're not listening to what they're asking you to do. That's not because the police, just want to shout at you. That's just because the police recognize that it's important to manage the scene, to preserve the evidence that is there. And so we often have, scene cordons, right? Where you see where, media will be kept at bay or people will be kept at bay. You see often tape going around or some kind of a rope. That's because the immediate thing is where that scene is, where that crime has happened. Sorry, that scene is important to make sure it stays as sterile as it possibly can be. So when the police are there and then they interact with the community, it's not that the police are being rude. It just means that sometimes if someone is not listening, then obviously you have to raise your voice and give more of a commanding position.
Indeed. Dr. Anthony Richardson says you have Crime Stoppers. Do you have procedures? Do you have internally to prevent crime tip-offs from being leaked by police officers internally or externally, which can end up in the hands of criminal elements? Does BPS have an established internal affairs department or an external body to police the police?
Yes, and that's why I said at the beginning we have our professional, standards department. Police officers just don't have access to, even when they feel like it, to just go and look at someone's profile, let's just say, in the computer. That's that's a no, and officers know, because there's, when you sign on, there's certain instructions, rules reminding you what the rules are, and then if you cannot justify why you're there, then yes, if you're doing that, you can face some challenges internally. There's the Police Complaints Authority for things that are outside of the police, independent body where people have that. But I want the public to know that, because we are the police, that doesn't mean that we are not held accountable. And I can tell you that the current administration, the commissioner and the deputy, very, very firm with that, police must be held accountable, and where you're doing things that you shouldn't. So this whole thing about mistrust in the police, not trusting the police, this is why I'm saying to you that if there are officers that you know who are behaving in a way, then there is a system in place internally that will be able to deal with them. Because what we want is your trust. We want you to trust us, because without you, then we cannot advance investigations and we can't protect our community in the way that we want.
Indeed. We've got Manuela. She's asking, is it always necessary to reveal the source of the information? Can a witness request to remain anonymous if they are fearful?
Yeah, so that's why I said a couple of minutes ago about information intelligence that can lead to evidence. So where you have information that you want to provide and you want to remain anonymous, and then there's the Crime Stoppers. That's that 800-8477 number. Remember, there's also, we often say this, and there's a member of police staff. And I'll tell you of a murder investigation not too long ago where, witnesses were there. They saw what had happened. And it was about maybe a week or so after the murder had happened. But there was a particular police officer that they knew, they felt comfortable with. And they went to that officer and they said, listen, this is what I saw. And the officer was able to talk to them and encourage them, and then brought them forward. And the circle of knowledge of that witness is a small. So yes, there are a lot of ways you can contact us. But I mean, I must drive this message. The key is contact us, because if we don't hear from you, that's difficult for us to advance investigations.
Indeed. You kind of answered this as well. Zamari A.F. Hartman says, has BPS begun managing anonymous tips? Bermuda's very small individuals are less inclined to share information regarding an investigation when they are concerned about individuals finding out about the tip. Many police officers, due to Bermuda close proximity, have family relations or connections to individuals committing these crimes on island. I think you've answered that, but it seems like a universal concern that the mistrust is actually so deep because of the thing that we think it should help with. It's actually used against us, right? Where a police officer, it seems from the audience concerns this morning, may have a cousin that's involved in something, and hey, look, this person is the one that came to us about this information. That's hard to change. That people have that mindset that if I give a
so you're looking at
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I say, that is, look, I'm a Bermudian. I grew up in this community. I know people as well who've committed crimes, and unfortunately, I've been sometimes in circumstances where I've had to advance an investigation against them. But also, and I've not seen this. You have parents who know their child has committed an offense, and actually, I want to let the police know, what's going on, what you've done. Look, it's all about personal responsibility, and as citizens in a country, we all have it. We all parents is. But if you see somebody that's doing something that you shouldn't be doing, it's really important to come have a conversation with us.
Yeah. And this is also good advice. Sherilyn Pringle 1500 says the justice system here is extremely slow and patience is necessary. It's not like watching on TV. I remember when I was at Hot 107.5 full time, we're talking 16 years ago. And we had an incident where someone had stolen something from the station, and I remember contacting the police, and I said something because I watched Forensic Files and stuff and Dateline 2020. And the officer said to me, Hartman, this is not TV. Had to remind me, like, you can't just go arrest someone because you think they took something. But speak to the expectations, like how, while the police would love the help of the public, right? But also they have to manage their expectations that, in order, you can charge someone, but to get a conviction, you spoke to the processes, but speak to people managing their expectations as far as the police are concerned, because people seem to have a lack of patience when it comes to this stuff.
Right. So, if there's forensic evidence that has to be analyzed, that most times will be sent overseas. So you're looking at a turnaround of 21 days or so before you can get that result. But this is why I say to people, right, the important message is that the forensic evidence, the CCT evidence, those are all parts of the evidence collection. The witness, the eyewitness testimony, that's also very, very key. So there are times that if there's a serious crime that's been committed, or any crime that's been committed, and there's a witness who was present, or the victim that was present, and they actually give that complaining statement. There are a lot of times that based on that alone, a file could be prepared and that person could be placed before the courts, within 24, 48 hours. We've seen that, often in serious crimes or the murder investigations where, murder might have happened on a Friday, but, over that weekend, the police interviewed a number of witnesses, and then they provide enough evidence based on what they observed that the DPP said, yep, there's enough to charge. And then, of course, the forensics will go through that process, and that might take a couple of weeks before we get those results back, which again just solidifies the case. So yeah, we do have that, and it isn't like TV shows, as you rightly said, right? It is a process. I mean, could you imagine that when a major crime has happened, first of all, you call out a team. They got to go to a scene. There's a forensic team that has to go out. People got to be working. Sometimes, you're working 16, 18 hours a day before you even get home. And then you got to turn around and within 8 hours and be back, and you continue again. So yes, there's a process, but does take time. It can be a lot quicker where you have public cooperation. And that's the key, because as I said earlier, the forensics, the CCTV, documentary evidence, telecommunication evidence, those are things that often take time because someone's got to sit there and analyze it. The other thing about CCTV that people may not understand is that, so it's like watching TV in real time. That means that you have to have a team of people that are going to sit in front of a screen for 8-10 hours of watching footage, because you're just looking for that one key piece of evidence. So that takes time, right? That doesn't happen overnight. And it does take patience. It takes a lot of patience. Imagine that you're sitting in front of a TV 8-10 hours, and you may be doing this for a number of days because you're really looking for one piece of evidence. I mean, this is the kind of detail that goes into investigations that maybe the public doesn't often, see. But imagine if we got cooperation early from the community, from those bystanders we talked about earlier, those witnesses who saw. Imagine if they were able to come forward early and say, hey, this is what I saw. This is the description of the clothing. This is the bike, right? That will help out tremendous, and it will cut down on time, and then we can start, advancing. And again, it's all about protecting the community. It's not about locking somebody up. I think people might say that. That's not the objective here. The objective here is that as police officers, we take on the responsibility, of protection of law and order, a protection of people's property and their lives. That's what we do. So when we go out and a crime has happened, it's not because we're looking to lock somebody up. I think that's far from the truth. It's about collecting evidence so that we can maintain law and order in our country. Because, as I said earlier, if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, I can expect that, the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, is going to hold me accountable, and whatever internal disciplinary, procedures I have to face, that's going to be it. It's equal to members in the community. You can't have a criminal going and taking over our country as is happening. I mean, I have conversations with people every day, and people say, "Look, I don't go out anymore because I'm afraid." Because if I go out, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. So imagine now we're living in a society where when I was growing up here, like you go anywhere and you just felt safe. But now we're reaching a stage where people are afraid to go out. And really, when we look at those who are causing all of that disruption, it's a minority. But it takes the majority of us to come together, right? To challenge and step up to that minority that's disrupting our lives. And this is why it's important, as we've been talking this morning, that when the community comes and supports the police, we can advance and help to restore law and order in our country.
Indeed. It's definitely been a pleasure. Before you head out, real quickly, has there been a case, I'm not sure if you can share or not,
yeah,
or where a single witness or a piece of information made the critical difference in solving a serious crime?
Just about every single one. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. When you look at cases that have where you've got convictions in the court, when you look at that, and if you follow those cases in the news, right, what you will see is, yes, there's forensics and there's telecommunications, but a big part you'll see, right, is this witness came forward and this is what they saw, this is what they heard, this witness came forward, this is what they saw. You will see that repeated throughout the trial process, where witnesses are coming forward describing what they saw, what they heard. And if we got that, and just to say, just with every single case, when you see a success, it's because of that witness that came forward.
Indeed. Thank you for that. And looking ahead, what is the Bermuda Police Service doing to strengthen trust and improve relationships with the community so that people feel more comfortable working with law enforcement? I mean, you said it all already, but just to wrap it up.
Well, Jamal. So my current role is I'm in charge of community policing. We put some initiatives in place recently where we're looking to engage, the community more. We set out what we call a community pro forma, where we're encouraging our officers to engage, the community, to find out and what are their concerns, what are their needs, and our response times. Right, we're big on this. We recognize that yes, we're a police service, but the community is kind of like our clients. So we want to give good community customer service, to our clients. And I think when we continue to make those advancements, where the community see us, where we're more visible, then hopefully that will continue to rise the confidence in us to be stronger. But I can tell you that the men and women that I work with in the organization really do work hard. They put a lot of time, they put a lot of effort in, and we take these things seriously, and that is why last week and now today, on your show, talking to the community to encourage them to come forward, that's so important. And I thank the community for the support that they have given us, because we do get support, but we just need that support to continue. And for those of you who have information on outstanding cases, outstanding murders, serious crimes, or any crime, we encourage you to come forward. If you don't want to call the 800 Crime Stoppers number or our 211 number, there could be a police officer that please make contact with them and let us have the conversations, because information intelligence can eventually lead to evidence. And that's our job, to collect the evidence so that we can present to the DPP for charge approvals, or at least have conversations about the case and how we can go forward.
Superintendent Jason Smith, thank you so much for the time, for the engagement. And I really hope that, people, when I ask them to share these conversations with their friends, family, and colleagues, is traditionally we're living in a time in a world where people are not local as much anymore, whether it's radio, TV. We're not local. And to be honest, to be able to help our community, we need to be more attached to what's happening in and around us. So thank you for engaging with us as always. And hopefully the next conversation will be speaking about how the community stepped up and came forward and assisted in not just helping to solve, but to prevent more of the stuff that we're talking about. So thank you again, and we'll chat to you soon. Have a wonderful day. Oh, God, before you go.
Thank you.
In the month of July, do you tend to wear red and blue or just beautiful blue?
Red and blue, brother, all the way.
Have a great day, sir. And I don't really mean that. Have a good one.
Take care.
I'm not winning this battle. I'm not winning this battle. I am not winning this cup match battle. I mean, where are all the Somerset people coming from? But thanks again to Superintendent Jason Smith, folks. If you appreciated that conversation and you were streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, do us that favor. Share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Give us a like, love, follow, share it. Make sure everyone you know has access. Very important information that was shared this morning. We're going to take our final break. We'll be back after this break, and I'll wrap it up, give my final thoughts on the discussion and the conversation. And we've got the daily play, which is keys to the past. Come on, you all got to get this clue. Do you want to win or not? Stick with us.
Children love to play and have fun. And they love gifts even more, especially ones that they can enjoy and learn from. With Bermuda Trivia coloring books, kids can explore the island while they color, learn, and create. The perfect activity for fun and learning together. Available now.
Visit BermudaTrivia.com and follow Bermuda Trivia on your favorite social media platforms to learn more.
For over 70 years, Bermuda Pest Control has been protecting homes and businesses island-wide. We offer a full suite of services, including rodent control, termite fumigation, and general insect control and maintenance. Our team of experts will quickly and efficiently eliminate any pest problem you may have. With Bermuda Pest Control, you can enjoy a pest-free home in no time. We're committed to providing fast, reliable, and solution-driven services for our customers. It's what we've been doing since 1952. Call Bermuda Pest Control today and say goodbye to pests for good.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC, Bermuda Business starts here.
Bermuda, there's nothing like a home-cooked meal, especially when you can feed the whole family without stretching your wallet. With the affordable Bermuda basket, you'll find savings on everyday staples like rice, chicken, corn, and more. Everything you need to make a good meal for less. Shop the Bermuda basket at Lindo's, Marketplace, the Garden Market, and the English Market. Visit costofliving.gov.bm to see the full list of goods and start planning your meals. This is a message from the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Life moves fast, and so can the unexpected. When you insure your home, you need to know that your insurance company has your back. At Friesenbrook, let one of our friendly and professional agents give you that peace of mind. Because when you are covered, you are confident. Call us at 296-3600 or visit friesenbrook.bm to learn more.
Guess what? Bermuda's most popular game is back. That's right, Shoebuy is back in stores. But wait, there's more. The brand new Shoebuy Summer Edition is here too. Bring the laughs, the vibes, the friendly chaos to your barbecues and summer get-togethers with Bermuda's favorite game. Don't miss your chance to get yours. Visit BermudaTrivia.com and follow Bermuda Trivia on social media to learn more.
One lucky box in the summer edition has a golden ticket with the chance to win a grand prize courtesy of One Communications.
All right, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to Superintendent Jason Smith for stopping by. We greatly appreciate him making time for us. If you appreciate the conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. This is the Daily Hour. I'm Jamel Hartman. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, HSBC Bermuda Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Alrighty, folks, it is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia. Don't forget, brand new Shoebuy Summer Edition, along with the original, is in stores now. You want to make sure you have this game for your summer socials, your barbecues, your parties, your get-togethers, family reunions, or corporate events. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. Sold out very fast during Christmas, and it's doing the same thing now. So follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, it's keys to the past. Now, Karen Edward Simmons says, I've gone to the location I think the clue is 3 times now, even 10 minutes after it was read on Tuesday. Clearly not that location. All right, I'll read it one more time, and if you can send an email to Curb and tell them where you went, or us, and tell us where you went, and then we will let you know if you're on the right track. So I'll read the clue again. All right, here it is, folks. With scissors sharp and vision clear, he shaped more than the styles of hair. From island life to history's page, he rose to lead upon a greater stage. Find the lane, both short and small, that leads to one who changed it all. All right, that's the clue. All right. If you have an idea and you've been to the location like Karen Edward Simmons, send us an email and we'll let you know if you're on the right track. But that's the clue for today. All right, folks. I you know me, I do daily play. Daily play is never difficult. All right. I always make sure, you all have a chance. All right. So yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. As far as the discussion this morning with AI, look, it's not going anywhere. And I'm not saying we all have to embrace it, but we have to figure it out. We have to figure something out, how to live with it over time. I'm not saying just embrace it right away, but figure out how you as an individual can best respond to it, where you don't feel replaced by it. But we also need to challenge those who have the power and the authority to ensure that AI protects us. And when I say protects us, from misinformation. We don't want AI. I remember a time, people used to say video evidence was a sign of someone being guilty of something. And then you realize, oh no, people can edit things, right? AI is not necessarily going to be the truth. It doesn't know everything. It still needs humans. Yeah? So I think it's necessary. Have those conversations with your members of parliament. Let Bermuda be a leader in legislation when it comes to artificial intelligence. To the creators, I would say, if you feel like your jobs and your businesses and opportunities are threatened by artificial intelligence, get more creative. Find ways to utilize that tool to help you build a better brand. Look at people who are making these event flyers and promotions and approach them with something similar to show, look, this looks less like AI. Let me help you next time. As far as the conversation with Superintendent Jason Smith, a lot was shared. And I've said it time and time again, the onus, the responsibility and safety of our community is on all of us. It's on all of us. And let me be very clear. I understand people who are fearful, who lack trust in institutions to protect them. I get it. But we have a problem in our community. And it's not going to fix itself. It's going to require all of us to play a part. There's a role for every last one of us in keeping our community safe. Not to be cliche, but there's an old saying. If you see something, say something. All right, daily inspiration time. Here you go. This is from my book. Very short, to the point. I'm going to change it. If you want better for yourself, you've got to give better to yourself. Again, if you want better for yourself, you've got to give better to yourself. That's your daily inspiration from the Journey Within, my book. All right, folks. Well, got to let you go, but do not forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House Lindos, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airways with these most important community conversations. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe, and a great day. We are is out. Peace.